So this panel, we're going to discuss the data infra and security. So in the last panel, we actually touched base a little bit on the data, quite a bit on how the data will interact with agents. In this panel, we'll actually specifically talk to data and infrastructure security and how to make your models and agents and application be able to scale. So let me first introduce our panelists. I'll go here one by one. So the first panelist, Mr. Xu Zhou. Mr. Zhou is the Senior Vice President of Cloud Delivered Security Services at Palo Alto Networks, leading innovation in cybersecurity and AI-driven protection. In his role, he leads the development of best-in-class security products that consistently perform across a variety of platforms within the company. His product portfolio encompassed a wide array of offerings, including AI runtime security, AI red teaming, threat prevention, sandboxing, URL filtering, cloud access security broker, data loss prevention, DNS security, and IoT security, among others. So Xu's journey with Palo Alto Networks actually began through the acquisition of Zingbox, the IoT security company he co-founded and led as CEO. Under his leadership, Zingbox became a global leader in IoT security, raised multiple rounds of venture funding, and was eventually acquired by Palo Alto Networks in 2019. So before founding Zingbox, Xu also held senior leadership roles at Arrowhive Networks and Aruba Networks, where he built cloud-based BYOD security products and oversaw industrial. So earlier in his career, he was a founding member and a VP software at Zilla Networks. So as you can see, Xu is actually an industry veteran in the security and the networks. So let's welcome our first panelist, Xu Zhou. So the second panelist is also an expert and industry veteran, Mr. Prakash Sundarasam. Prakash is a co-founder and CEO of Defang.io. Defang enables developers to deploy any application, particularly agentic applications, to any cloud in a simple, secure, and a scalable way. So if you're developing your agents, you should consider using his company as an infrastructure provider. So Prakash is a repeat founder, having previously founded Trusted Key, a digital identity startup that was acquired by Workday. Prior to Defang, Prakash was a VP at AWS, responsible for products with over $1 billion in annual revenue. Earlier in his career, Prakash spent over 15 years at Microsoft in various leadership roles, building enterprise server products. Let's welcome Prakash. So our third panelist, Charles Fan. Charles Fan is co-founder and CEO of MemVerge, a leader in AI memory software. Prior to MemVerge, Charles was SVP and GM at VMware, responsible for VMware's storage business unit and the big data group, and delivered the software-defined storage product, Virtual SAN. Oh, yeah. Charles also worked at EMC and started EMC China R&D Center and served as CTO of Cheetah Mobile, a mobile internet company. So MemVerge was the second startup Charles co-founded. He was a co-founder and CTO of Reinfinity, which was acquired by EMC. Charles received his PhD and MS in electrical engineering from California Institute of Technology and his BE in electrical engineering from Cooper Union. Let's welcome Charles Fan. So our fourth panelist, Mr. Professor Heiner Liss, is actually from the academic field. Professor Heiner Liss is Associate Professor of Computer Science and Engineering at the University of California, Santa Cruz. where he also holds the Kumar Malavali Endowed Chair of Storage System Research. He is the director of the Center for Research in Storage System and a member of UCSC's Hardware System Collective. Professor Li's research bridges computer architecture and large-scale systems with a focus on optimizing the hardware-software interface for modern data center workloads. His work explores new designs for microarchitecture from branch prediction and instruction scheduling to memory hierarchy to make next-generation processors more efficient and intelligent. He previously led a visiting and a research position at MIT, Google, and Stanford University, and earned his PhD from Mannheim University in Germany. Let's welcome Professor Liz. So our fifth panelist, Mr. Hong Zhang. Hong is a technology leader with deep expertise in planet-scale distributed systems, reliability, security, and governance. He worked at Google. He built the global service platform that powers all Google Cloud products and core security systems, setting engineering standards across the company. Later, he worked at Databricks. He leads a multi-cloud compute platform powering all future products. Hong has a proven track record of delivering secure, reliable, and scalable platforms that support billions of users and workload worldwide. Let's welcome Mr. Hong Zhang. So the last panelist, Mr. Zheng Bu, is the co-founder and CEO of Camo Technology, an innovative AI-first compliance service startup, helping hundreds of clients to turn compliance into a business enable with Camo worry-free services as a software. Zheng's new startup idea came from his previous experience as Chief Security Officer and CTO of the International Business Unit at Didi. Zheng Bu served as the Chief Security Officer, where he oversaw information security, risk and fraud, privacy, and security products and engineering. Later, he became the CTO for international business, where he established the product and engineering organization for Didi's international business, where he established growing the multi-billion-dollar segment from scratch in only 3 years. Wow. Earlier, Zheng has held senior leadership positions in several public companies in the USA, including FireEye, McAfee, and Intel, where he contributed to various technology innovations in the security space. Let's welcome Zheng. Okay, let's start my panel questions. So I prepared 6 questions, and then we'll select a few panelists to answer each because we have a large panel and we have limited time. So my first question is regarding AI agent security architecture. So as AI agents become more sophisticated and integrated into enterprise workflows, we're seeing new attacks, from the AI agents. So Xu, this question maybe I point to you. From your experience with Palo Alto Networks, which is the #1 security company in the US, have you seen the new challenges when the AI agents was deploying in the field? What new challenges actually you see, and what are the main challenges and the risk when building the agents with agent-to-agent or MCP, this different architecture? Can you elaborate a little more?
Hello. Okay, first of all, it's an honor to be here. And actually, I see some bright students. So just one advertisement. Palo Alto Networks is close by. I actually walk here, and we're actively hiring. So then to answer the question, I think AI is creating the biggest challenge as well as the biggest opportunity for cybersecurity. You know, if you ask me before 2022 when ChatGPT was invented, whether cybersecurity as a whole can be a problem that can be solved, I would say most cybersecurity veterans would not have confidence to answer you that cybersecurity is a solvable problem. But then thanks to GenAI, if you ask me today, 3 years after ChatGPT was invented, I have more and more confidence than ever before that the cybersecurity as a whole is a solvable problem today. Even though we are facing actually more challenges today, like Jim mentioned, with there's AI agents. However, we now have more confidence that AI is empowering, I would say, the defense side in such a fundamental way. We now have much more confidence we can solve this problem. More specifically, how Palo Alto is approaching this AI security. So we're thinking about from coming up a framework, because that's how big companies do. That's also give startup more opportunities. We're thinking about in enterprise, the AI security roughly have two categories. One category is how do you secure employees that who are accessing AI anytime, anywhere, right? So secure employee side. Another category is how do you secure those Gen AI apps or agents that are developed by the companies themselves. So we think there's two different problems. That's why last year we came up two type of products to address these two categories. Within these categories, I think secure employees, like everybody use, Gemini, use many apps, is a relatively easier problem than secure company's own agent, because I think a previous panel mentioned agent is still in early days, and there's so many different type of agents going on. So how do we come up a framework to secure those growing number of agents becomes the biggest challenge I believe the entire cybersecurity is facing right now. And what we are thinking about, there's kind of three categories where I pay a whole lot more attention, make a lot of investment, like collaborating with the top university, top security researchers. Number one is actually identity. So when agent in your enterprise starts doing something on behalf of you, then the agent's identity becomes the most important attacking surfaces and the most important defense vectors. So that's why if you read the news a few months ago, Palo Alto Networks made the biggest acquisition in our history. We spent $24 billion acquired CyberArk. That's the main thesis behind that, because we now realize in order to completely solve the agent security, identity has to become the number one. So that's one. Then number two, we call the entire agent development cycle, right? Developers start writing the code, whether it's a vibe code or his or her own personal code, start deploying the agent, start running the agent. The entire agent life cycle management and security becomes very important. Right now, like many startups are approaching different aspects of these agent life cycles, while at Palo Alto, we believe through both internal development as well as through acquisitions, we want to address the entire development life cycles. So number three, whatever you do, no matter how much you make invest, something will go wrong one way or another. Then if something goes wrong, how can we quickly detect and quickly respond? So we call this agent detection and response. How can we leverage AI to automate that? Becomes the third important pillars. So at Palo, we are thinking along these three pillars to completely address Gen AI and agent security.
Great. And I think Palo Alto has multiple products for that, right? Yeah. So Zheng, would you like to add something to that? And so when I know you have helped many clients to deploy their application.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me? Yes. Right. So I'll probably add some color from a different angle. I was a CISO, and probably a lot of people thought CISO as a secretive job in a corporate, that fighting the bad guys, right? But actually, believe it or not, right after GenAI become a thing, like 2023, every CISO running around just to figure out what would be our policy for using AI. So they're struggling. That number one thing was like, hey, so can we just come up with a policy to, for our corporate to follow, to use AI. What is allowed, what is the best practice, what cannot be done, things like that. So that for the entire year, people are just, trying to adopt this new thing, right? I mean, which is normal. And a year after, people start to realize, okay, so there are things that we can do now, thanks to the innovation from vendors like Palo Alto, Zoshu's team. So there's this, AI governance or visibility, tools out there like Palo Alto Networks and many other startups. So, CISOs will start to build visibility on all of the AI applications. And they're not just building these visibilities for the sake of it, right? Because they want to control. So they want to say, hey, if something goes wrong, I can block it. So year 2024 is the year of governance and also control. Okay. A big step forward from the policy-only thing, right? Okay, so coming into this year, right? So more and more AI applications, contact, protocols, MCP protocols, and et cetera, making things more and more difficult, and the attack surface becomes bigger and bigger. So this year, people start to, on top of the governance and the controls, people start to also do things like, okay, so we will move this whole thing, even further, ahead. So before we start to deploy any AI, applications that is enterprise grade, right? So we will do a thorough vendor risk assessment. We hire people to do pen testing on your system. We will make sure that before this thing even, get their foot to our system, to our cloud, to start to basically touch our data, and our guys start to send data out into this into the cloud of this particular AI agents. I want to make sure I did my best to ensure they follow a basic compliance standard. So things like that becomes like, so on top of the governance, as I said, control, now they add comply. You have to you have to comply with GDPR, AI Act, ISO 42001. These are the new compliances in the AI world, right? And finally, improve. So with this cycle, security CISOs and privacy officers and compliance officers in the companies are getting more and more, I would say, comfortable in terms of adopting or embracing more AI agents.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, I think that compliance rules and kind of a regulation kind of pushing more and more out of the door. I think that's kind of set the bottom line for people to be. But also I think it's very important for the industry connect and talk about the best practice and share that with the founders, right? Okay, so let's go to the next question. This is earlier we talked about the agents. So when the super agents or more agents deployed in the enterprise and also kind of involved into our lives, one of the questions is coming up is how can we let the agents actually become self-evolve and learning and continue grow? So one of the inevitable technology is regarding the memory. So the second question is regarding the memory infrastructure for intelligent agents. And this question I would first direct it to Charles. So when the next generation of agents requires persistent memory and ability of self-evolve, from your experience with your ventures in Manverge computer platforms and your experience from VMware, how do you see the memory converged infrastructure enabling agents that can maintain the context and continuously improve?
Okay, thank you for the question. Yeah, memory, as you heard from the previous panel, is becoming an important topic for agents because I think when they refer to memory, it's usually referred to long-term memory or context memory. The model is themselves, they do remember certain things. They remember almost everything in the public. All the internet was used for training to go into the models. So those were remembered in the weights. And within the models, they also have some short-term working memory that's called KV cache. And so those are the common state model themselves remembers. And then there's the context memory. And those are the data that's not captured by the model. Those could be something that's personal, that's private. Those could also be something that's happened more recently, since the model has been trained. So those data need to be captured by another system so that can be used as a context in order for the model to give the right answers. And that is commonly referred as a long-term memory system or persistent context system. And as a company, Memverge, we are working in all of these areas. We started from the infrastructure kind of to see how we can build a better memory hierarchy from high bandwidth memory to CPU memory to flash storage to have a better sort of a data platform for the KV cache and so on. And then more recently, with the growth of agentic AI, we believe this long-term memory become a key issue that hasn't been fully addressed. So we recently launched an open source project called Project Mem Machine. We just open sourced it a couple of weeks ago. That meant to build this kind of context long-term memory system that can work across all models, that can allow enterprises, institutions, or even consumers to be able to maintain their own memory no matter which model they work with.
That sounds very exciting. I know later you have a product launch to announce,
yes,
right? Great.
yes.
Looking forward to it. So perhaps Professor Liz, you're from the academic. Are there any bottlenecks or infrastructure bottlenecks we might encounter as the model expand into new modalities like spatials or 3D domains or long-term memories? Can you add your insights here?
Yeah, hello, first of all, everyone. Thanks for having me. I totally agree with Charles. Memory is going to be the new bottleneck. I wouldn't be surprised if the next NVIDIA would be a memory company, maybe Memverge. So the reason for that is the following. So all these structures, context, windows, KV cache, long-term memory, all these things are scaling. That's how we currently are improving the capabilities of our models. And the problem is the following. So for all the years, we had been coping with the challenge that memory was either small and fast or cheap and slow. Right? And for traditional applications, this worked because we built this memory hierarchy where we had important, frequently used data in the fast, small cache at the top, and then we moved the less frequently used data down in the stack, and that worked well enough. Now with AI, whether it's context, window size, long-term memory, RAG, we need similarity search. So basically all the data is represented using embedding vectors, and we don't want to find or look up just one particular vector as it was common in many of the traditional applications, but instead we need to kind of brute force scan through our whole memory to find the information that we need to run our AI systems. And that now means we need large but very fast memory. So I think there's a ton of exciting research going on, putting flash on top of HBM, getting much more bandwidth of the more cost-effective memories, but also looking into new caching ideas, how to structure our embedding so that we can leverage at least some form of locality and benefit from caching. So a lot of interesting work going on in that area.
Sounds very interesting. Yeah, thank you. So next question, let's move to the cloud infrastructure evolution for the AI workloads. Because right now everything is about workflows and orchestration, right? So Prakash, you have worked in AWS and Workdays and also your current venture. The data center landscape is undergoing a revolution driven by the AI workloads. The demand is huge. So given your expertise, and now also leading the Defense cloud simplification efforts, what's your take on the data center growth revolution, and how are you making the cloud deployment more accessible for the AI applications?
Yeah, great question, and thanks for having me. The reason we started Defang, as June mentioned, I had a previous startup, was built on AWS, like most startups are built on AWS. How many of you have actually here built something on AWS or any other cloud platform? Great, at least several hands. How many of you like the process of deploying your application? Yeah, I see thumbs down. So that's the sort of ugly underbelly of software development and deployment, right? Everybody focuses on the development, but deployment, actually getting your application up and running on a cloud platform, whether that's AWS, Azure, GCP, whatever it might be, is actually quite difficult. And to do it well is even more difficult. To do it well meaning in a secure way, scalable way, cost-effective way, make sure compliance rules are met, everything, right? So that was the problem we struggled with when we built our startup. And then once we were acquired by Workday in our case, which is a born in the cloud company, and you would think, they have mastered the cloud, we realized bigger companies also have the same challenges, right? So it's at a much larger scale even. So that's why we started Defang, saying like, okay, there must be a better, easier way to deploy your applications to the cloud. Why can't we just make it so easy? Like if some of you might have used like Docker, and you spin up Docker applications locally in a single command. Why can't we make it like that for the cloud? So that's kind of what Defang does. But over the last 2 years, a couple of things have changed. One, there's a lot more applications now because of AI. AI is generating so many applications, so there's a lot more applications to be deployed. Secondly, the deployment model is changing. What I mean by that is when I started my career, it was the client-server days. I don't know how many people still remember client-server, right? So some hands. So the customer bought a license to an application like an SAP or PeopleSoft. Then they procured the hardware, installed like this operating system, the system software, application, maintained everything themselves. Very complex, right? But they had full control over the whole environment. But to address the complexity, after a few years, like SaaS came along and cloud came along, right? And made things much, much simpler. Now the application vendor, let's say Salesforce or Workday, they took care of all the complexity. All you needed as a customer was a browser, and you pay as you go and sign up for a subscription, right? But customers did trade off something in that process. And what that trade-off was, like, your data is now locked up in that provider's environment, right? It's in your tenant, but it's sort of ambiguous how much rights you have to your data versus what the provider has. So now we're entering this third era, right? We're entering the agentic era. And what we see is the pendulum is swinging back a little bit. Customers don't want to send their data to an agent running in some unknown environment. They want the agentic app to be deployed in their environment, where all of their data is, where the compliance rules are, the security, IAM is already all provisioned. So it's not all the way back to on-prem like in the old client-server days, but it's now deploy your application into my cloud, whether that's my AWS, my Azure, my Google. So those two things have changed. There's a lot more applications, and every application has to be deployed in a lot more places, right? And that's kind of what we are focused on, is how can we make that really, really easy.
Great, thank you. So Hong, since you work at Google Cloud and the Databricks, so as AI and machine learning depends on massive data sets, how do you ensure that data infrastructure is scalable while also protecting sensitive and regulated information? Can you share your best practice?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think this is a great and fundamental question. And every company is worried about data security. So in retrospect, that most of the companies put their data in cloud before AI. So that is where you get the security, you get the scalability. And so I think the first step is extend that model to the AI data, right? And apply the cloud security, cloud scalability, efficiency to the AI agent AI data. So if you look at how the enterprise worked before, they have AI, and they use the VM to run workload, use the EC2 to store data, and then use the AWS IAM equivalent to secure the data. So I think that model can be extended to cover the AI. Like take the database as an example, and database manage the data. So database build a service called the Unity Catalog that manages the data security. So the experience is that you create a table, you grant table permissions to users, and the user can use it. And that does require to build a very sophisticated service. Right? The Unity Catalog may not be as scale as AWS IAM, but fundamentally, it's solving one problem. It secures all the data owned by, managed by Databricks. So I think that is still a very legitimate model. You define a problem, and then you build a system to solve that problem. It's extraordinarily hard to build a service like AWS IAM. In the old days, you need to hire hundreds of engineers, 5 to 10 years to build it. But nowadays, with the AI, a lot of those knowledges is captured in the model. So you can actually hire a small team and then leverage the AI model and to build a system and that meet your business need. So I think that would be the general approach that most of the companies are taking. And then going forward, I think the AI would be able to build even more innovative solutions. But those need to be proven, right? Because like when you're talking about data security, you're typically talking about 12 nines and accuracy. And the AI hallucination is nowhere close to 12 nines. So it will be still to use the AI to build a secure system in a much cost-effective way, but not give the decisions to the AI model. But it's just still using the AI as tools to accelerate your business. Yeah.
So let's go deeper. Do you think there will be like standardized data protocols and for the MCPs or agents to agents?
Yes, I think it's happening. And so from the status quo, all the data platform provides some kind of data connector, right? And you use those connectors like in Python to access the data. So you can turn those connectors inside the MCP tool. So the agent speaks to the MCP tool, the MCP tool using the existing data connect to access the data. So that is a starting point. But that does not work really well at a scale. But if in enterprise, you typically talk about is hundreds of thousands of data table, data type. So it still requires the human to say, I need some data, but then you have to remember where the data is. So I think that the next step is provide a metadata layer. And so like a database unit catalog is building, providing an AI interface. So you can actually have an agent through the tools. First, you're talking to the metadata layer. So I need some information. So it will tell you where the information is, who to apply for the permissions. Then it goes through the data connector to get the data. So, and that is the current step. Then in the next step is the company will provide an interface that is more or less like a native like an agent. So you can basically, your application agent will talking to the data agent, I want something. And that agent will query the system internally instead of you making multiple calls to get the different piece of data, do join, do SQL. Then you basically, the agent itself is built in by the platform. Right? The data platform itself is the data agent. Then your application agent talk to the data agent. So I think that many companies will try it. I'm confident in the short term, and there will be open source like a protocol that will be implemented by different vendors and to become a generic data agent. So they kind of speak more or less the same language. So if you look at the data format, there is an Iceberg data format that has been over years become the dominant data format. So I feel the same thing will happen with the data agent.
Okay, Excellent, excellent. So Professor Liz, would you like to add to that? You know, from your research in the storage and the computer architecture, do you agree, Mr. Zhang? And how do you think they would store the logs and the computation? And are there going to be infrastructure change and to enable the scaling?
Yeah, security and privacy is obviously a super interesting and important challenge. On the infrastructure side, it makes things very expensive because, especially when you go back to these brute force similarity searches, you now have to decrypt and encrypt now everything on every lookup, right? Your whole database, because you can't do these selective lookups and decryptions. But there's also interesting questions on the trust side. I spent my summer in Europe and there talked to many people who are often a lot more concerned about privacy than we often are. And so I think there, and probably here as well, many people don't understand where the data that you put into ChatGPT is actually stored. Is it put into the model? Is it still owned by yourself? Is it only in your personal chat history? So nobody does really, or many people don't really know, and they don't know how to control it, right? Which knobs they have to set on ChatGPT to control maintain control over their own data. So there's a lot of interesting questions to be addressed here, how to explain it to everyone, what happens to your data, and to give you the option to choose from, because there is value of giving all of your data to the AI model, right? It can query all your past history and becomes even more personalized, but there's also privacy concerns attached to that. I think there's at least some information about yourself that you might not want the model to know. And so finding the right trade-offs and ways to configure this in the right way, very important.
Great. So I think infrastructure and security are very tied together, right? And we also noticed the big change in cybersecurity. So Xu, you're working for the largest the firewall company. So do you feel that cybersecurity industry is undergoing some kind of fundamental disruptions or transformation?
Yeah, definitely. I think I mentioned that 2022, when ChatGPT was invented, I feel the cybersecurity was reinvented as well. I'll give you one data point. The number, maybe one can ask the audience questions. So before 2022, in terms of a number of attacks to you as a person or any company, now 2025, in terms of volume, anybody want to guess the number of attacks on any given day to an enterprise increased by how many times? Anybody wants to guess? 10 times? All right, that's a little bit conservative. So 30 times in 3 years. So that's just volume, right? And another dimension is the number we call the zero-day attack, which means that attack nobody has ever seen before. That's why in cybersecurity we call it zero-day, right? Before 2022, I would say 95% of attack, old attack, means somebody has saw that attack somewhere else before. Anybody wants to guess? In 2025 today, so as I said, before 2022, the number of zero-day attacks was less than 5%. Anybody wants to guess today? What's the percentage number of zero-day attack? Like a brand new, very innovative attack nobody has ever seen before. From 5% to 15, 50, almost in between. So roughly 25%. So that increased by 5x. So, and the majority of them because of AI. Think about it, there's no human being can create this type of impact in 3 years. So since 2022, the entire cybersecurity landscape changed. And then, as I said, in the short term, we feel entire cybersecurity defense industry were lacking behind because defense is always harder than offense, right? In order for you to launch attack, you just need to find one weak point. Right? On the defense side, we need to make sure everywhere is secured. So it's a much harder problem. However, as I said, if you ask me today, actually I'm even more confident than before. Because of AI, we can solve this problem because the hacker has very limited of data to understand you, to do your research, to launch targeted attack. But we, as a cybersecurity industry, we own a whole lot more data than any specific attacker. As a result, if we take full advantage of AI, we can actually solve this problem fundamentally.
So Prakash, I know you're delivering simplified infrastructure to accelerate AI applications. And what's your insights in there? How do you balance the securities and deployment?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the cloud vendors, they put in so much effort. They have so much features, functionality, services, operational excellence, security teams. However, the thing that trips up most customers is the complexity, right? That most customers make basic mistakes. So for example, when I was at AWS, I think it's a well-known fact in the industry, it's documented, vast majority of applications deployed on AWS will not pass AWS's own well-architected, they call it wafer, well-architected framework review. Basically best practices of how to deploy on AWS. And I'm just picking on AWS because I worked there previously. It's the same for any other cloud out there. Vast majority of applications will not pass their own best practices. Why? Because it's too complex, right? And so I think as much as the security vendors, obviously have a lot of products and services to secure things, what we need to do for customers is make it easy for them to adopt those, right? Both from the cloud hyperscalers as well as from the security vendors. And that's kind of a tools problem, if you will, from our point of view. It's like, if a human has to go tweak 1,000 different knobs, they're obviously going to make mistakes. Make it simple for them, and then they will adopt your tool so that they get it right. That's kind of our approach.
Okay, great. So we're running out of time, so we're going to wrap up. Have the last question for every panelist. And with this, the AI enterprise and AI integrations and the future, and please give your best practice suggestions to the founders and people also working in the AI field. So can I have John, maybe you start from that side?
Yeah, it's actually a great honor to be here. Actually, I learned a lot from the panel speakers. So I don't really think I'm in a position of giving advices to people, but maybe just to share my own experience in the past 3 years of AI startup, right? So I guess the most important thing I learned here actually is to unlearn. I used to be a SaaS guy, you know SaaS, right? Software as a service, right? So, and in my entire life, I've been building software. And all of a sudden, people are like, hey, software doesn't work. AI agent, I don't trust. Right? I agree with Professor Ye, right? So most of my customers are telling me that they don't trust AI agent's result at all. You need to give me human eye reviewed stuff, right? So then we figure out, okay, maybe we'll give you a service, but it's backed by AI agents. Right, so we'll give you human eye reviewed results. And that's how we started this new company called AI First Compliance Services. And that actually registered with our clients and giving them the best results, trustworthy results, and also at the speed and the cost of a software solution, right? So I guess I learn from my clients, and I also learn from many, many young AI startup founders. Most of the time I would, basically have a lot of advisors for my startup, and they are like senior people, even more senior than me, very experienced experts in each of the domain, sales, marketing, and etc. But this time I learned a lot from young generation. I feel like it is very fascinating. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Can we do Tom, or just have the panelists to give a couple words for your suggestions?
One thing I would like to see, more isolation and more standardization. So I consider like agent, ideal agent, they kind of is like an employee, so they can get things done, but without paying too much salary on it. But you definitely want to have control over the behavior. The same thing, if you have an employee without go through all the training, you cannot really trust that person to do things for the company. I think the same thing apply to the agent. So we like to see that provide more isolation, among agent, among the data, and apply controls. That's how you apply the control to the employee. So I play less confidence in the trust part. I would apply more verification. Basically, the certain policies will be applied to all agents, and those you can consider some additional agent that apply. I feel that one should be standardized in the industry.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So Professor Liz?
All right,
maybe-
I'll keep it short. Yeah, I think test and verify and commit often. That's, I think, the way to go. Don't trust it too much, and make sure that it's going to make the right things.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, so just one is isolation. Okay. Sorry. 2 words. One is one mentioned before, isolation. One thing large language model are very bad at is isolation. Everything goes in there is shared, and it's not clear how to isolate it. There needs to be a separate system for handling data that needs to be isolated. And the second word is personalization. It's my personal belief in the next 3 to 5 years, the first agents that will be adopted in the enterprises will be human-centric, meaning they will serve together with humans, and therefore a stronger personalization to know the humans better so they can serve the humans better will be important.
Thank you. I kind of go back to the previous panel, like, the discussion on what AIs are good at doing today, at least, and what they are not. I think as founders and technologists, it's up to us to make sure, we're not drinking too much of our own Kool-Aid, right? And be realistic in what tasks are well suited for AIs today. Things might change going forward, but let's not, mix up things too much. Like as technologists, we owe that to us and our customers, right?
Okay, maybe ironic for a cybersecurity guy to say this, but actually, I would say one big wave like AI is coming. I think the best thing you could do is to embrace it. If you do not embrace it, you have to face it, but embrace it with cautious.
Well, thank you, thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank our panelists. So we're running out of time, so I hope my questions are already taking into your submitted question into consideration. And then if later you have more questions, you're welcome to scan our QR code and get in touch with me. I get in touch with Professor Yi, and then we can have this conversation continue.